Welcome back to NRL 360. It's time for Ask Kenty. First question, KJ Reid. Kenty, if Paul Green was a Sydney coach, would he be under more pressure?
Yeah, likely. Yeah, look, they've certainly been disappointing this year, the Cowboys, but up there he's got a good grasp, he's got good communication with what's happening at the club, with the people who are writing about the club and covering the club, so people are informed what's happening. That's part of the trick sometimes.
Michelle Davidson, will we ever see a team from the country play in the NRL?
Not with these guys running it, we won't. No, I don't think we will for a long, long time.
Well, Central Queensland had a bid there for a while, but...
Yeah, they had a good bid, but they never really got close, and it'll be capital cities before we even look for the country.
Yep. James Hughes, is it an issue that the Bulldogs seem to be performing better as soon as they're out of finals contention?
No, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's just that they're slowly coming to grips with Dean Pay's style.
All right, now, in good news, Ask Kenty continues after the show tonight on Facebook Live. Simply head to the Fox League Facebook page where you can watch PK put in a bit of overtime. That's it for NRL 360 this evening. Thanks for your company. Coming up now, it's League Life. All right, so we continue Ask Kenty on Facebook Live. Thanks for sticking around if you've jumped over. Daniel Watson-Hayes, if Ponga's market value is supposedly $1.5 million a season, how much is Cameron Munster's, who has consistent hand in influencing the result of games?
Yeah, you'd have to think he's worth that, if not more, but he won't be getting that down at Melbourne because Melbourne have a different strategy for the way they operate their salary cap.
Maybe when Cameron goes.
I still don't think Melbourne will go to that level, Ben. 1.5, I think the Knights have got to be very careful to pay that for Kalyn Ponga.
Yeah.
It's such a big share of your salary cap.
I've said this before, the irony being is that the Cowboys weren't prepared to match what the Knights were going to pay for Ponga.
Yeah.
And now the Knights in a position where they may not be able to match what other clubs will pay Kalyn Ponga.
And at some point, someone will make a smart decision around that.
Yeah. I wonder if the Cowboys figure again. But
you go back to Phil Gould's point there about Kalyn not being here at the end of the season. You can't afford to pay 1.5 for a player who mentally is fatigued at round 20 and cannot get you through the rest of the year.
But his point is, in 2-3 years' time, he will be. So do you have to pay him today to get that in 3 years' time?
I get that, but at some point there will come a point where if this continual rise of his salary continues, then you're paying more than it's worth.
Yep. All right, from Lee, what is Mel's job description at the Titans if the club has the spoon and the playing group is in the way it is?
Well, his job description doesn't change. He's the head of performance and culture. And I think Phil Gould, in many ways, was correct when he said there's no performance and no culture there at the moment. That needs to be improved. There's certainly things that Mel's doing to try and turn that around. But it looks like it's like turning to Queen Mary at the moment.
I'm thinking that's probably the first thing that needs to change. Is his job title. Is because it seems to me that his focus has moved down onto elite pathways.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That is building the base, because you can't tell me. I mean, he's effectively said when Justin Holbrook arrives, he's there to be a sounding board, and I get that. He'd be a great guy to be able to bounce ideas off and have as a bit of a senior figure. But he can't own performance and culture. That needs to be given to Justin Holbrook if he's any chance of succeeding the way they believe he can, then he needs to own those two pillars, right?
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So shift his job title and put his focus on building the base out for the Gold Coast Titans, which they've admitted themselves has been a struggle.
Just put Mal Meninga legend. That's all he needs.
Michael Livingstone, if the NRL insists on getting rid of or relocating a Sydney club, will it face a revolt from the remaining New South Wales clubs?
No, it won't. Not from the other clubs. No, it won't. But
that'd allow them to maybe increase their market if you remove a Sydney club.
This is a really emotive issue, and I was asked today about this on my blog. I think there are clubs that would be willing to die rather than forcibly be relocated. I don't think they'll do it. I think a smart club would go out and really do a cost analysis over there at Perth or wherever, find out how much sponsorship money is sitting there if they did move, how many members are sitting there, how much they get in corporate support once they get over there, and they might be able to turn it around. And you only got to look at the West Tigers now. Most kids, well, any kid these days, can't remember Western Suburbs or Balmain.
No.
They know West Tigers.
Yes.
That's it. The fact is, we constantly evolve as a society. The game is not like it was. No one remembers Annandale or regrets that Glebe's no longer in the competition. They were at one point.
Newtown is what it is, so to the North Sydney Bears.
100%.
Yeah.
So we just got to understand
But
that.
this conversation's come up again because of that wonderful crowd we had at the Rabbitohs Storm game. So immediately people think we need to give the Central Coast a team. But it was put to me this week. In fact, it was by our very worldly and intelligent producer, Mitch, that perhaps the best...
You think?
The best solution for the Central Coast is just to have more NRL clubs play games in that market. We could do the same for Perth, we could do the same for Adelaide. So keep the tradition, you know, continue to appeal to the traditional markets, those 6,000 to 10,000 rusted-ons that go to those Sydney games every week, but share what they do with the fans of those clubs in Perth, in Adelaide. You know, is that the answer?
Oh, it could be, but look, I think Melbourne...
You don't agree with Mitch?
Yeah, I like the idea, but I also remember, I think it was Melbourne and the Roosters played there earlier this year on the Central Coast, and the crowd was a stinker. It wasn't a great crowd.
Yeah,
so
maybe Mitch isn't on as good an idea as he thinks.
Mitch?
Yeah. Jay Gesh, big fan of the Johnny Lewis book. Did you write Johnny Lewis's book?
Don't start.
Do you know Jay Gesh?
Yes. No, I don't.
This is a cook-up, this one. Any other books in the works? Well, he did write another one, Sunny Ball,
Yeah.
which just missed out on a major sportsbook award that I happen to be on the judging panel for.
Yeah,
He's never let
yeah.
me live it down.
That's
But
cool.
are you thinking about writing
No.
anything? No?
No, I'm not.
Really?
It's too much work, Ben.
What about a movie script or something?
Ben, I haven't got time to scratch myself.
Really? Too much time talking, not enough time left over to work. Jamie Corcoran, the way Melbourne are coached and play the game has ruined the entertainment value of rugby league. Thoughts?
A lot of fans think the same thing, Ben. We don't have the capacity or the fortitude to try and change it.
You mean at NRL HQ?
At NRL, look, if you look at the way the development of the game and the way that the tackle these days dominates basically the game. Everybody wrote Melbourne off this year, thought they couldn't win now. They've lost Billy Slater after losing Cooper Cronk the year before. They can't do it. So what happens? Melbourne go away, spend all season working on their defence. So this year, as you pointed out last night on the show, they're 1-1-1-1 in every major category of defence. They are clearly the best. They do that by, I don't want to say exploiting the rules, bending the rules to play the ball. It all starts at to play the ball and it all ends at to play the ball. That's the sole area where they dominate the game, therefore they're leading the competition, and the NRL got the referees who will not call a penalty against them because they're terrified.
Can I put the onus on someone else? Another key stakeholder group in this wonderful game of ours? How about the opposition coaches find a way to beat the Melbourne Storm? Rather than complain about the rules that supposedly suit the Melbourne Storm, actually come up with tactics.
No, it's not. It's not about them finding a way. If someone's bending the rules or going outside the rules, every other club's trying to copy what Melbourne do to stay in touch.
Isn't that the great shame?
But there shouldn't be an allowance. When a team is bending the rules, there shouldn't be an allowance where you find a way around it. It's up. The other clubs are relying on the officials to actually say no.
But you can only
cut
play.
it out.
You can only play what's in front of you. You've got no.
You play what the rule book is.
And what's in front of you. Well, Melbourne clearly aren't. You can't tell me that there are other.
You've just made my point. Melbourne clearly aren't.
Yeah. So if in this current season the officials aren't coming down on the Melbourne Storm...
It's not this current season. It's been the whole evolution of the wrestle in the game.
So after all this time, coaches still haven't found out a way to exploit the way the Melbourne Storm play.
They have been, but once they get around that, it moves on to another... moves further along the spectrum. You know what the answer is, and the NRL don't have the guts to do it, is they need to bring down the interchange, because the one thing coaches can't coach against is fatigue. Tired players make mistakes. We saw when the game went from 10 interchange down to 8 interchange, we almost eliminated at that point the 4-man tackle, and we saw a lot less 3-man tackles. If we go from 8 to 6, there's every indication it will continue to go that way, and eventually we should go from 6 to 4.
Yep. No, that makes sense. This next question comes from Dragons, and it's a question about the Dragons.
Who'd have thought?
What do you think Dragons need to do in 2020 to have a more successful year? Win more games?
Oh, look, I spoke to Paul McGregor about it the other day. He's going to get to the end of the season, he's going to go away and he's going to have a think, and he's going to really clear his head so he makes a a clear decision on the future rather than one driven by the emotion of now. Dragons clearly got to get through the rest of the year. There are some players there. Look, Ben Hunt, I hate to heap more criticism on him, but he's just not producing what he's being paid to produce. They've got the money poorly invested there. They've got to figure out a way around that, if you ask me. And then they've got to just recruit a little bit more smartly. And I think they've just got to change a little bit about the way they play.
Yeah, so they're the three key areas, right? Roster.
Yep.
So right people in the right boxes.
Yep.
Support staff.
Yep.
Which I think they're looking at.
Yep.
If the coach doesn't want to change, he needs to change what happens around him.
Yep.
And game plan, the way they play. Russell, have you got any bucket list items to tick off before you're 50? What's that? That's not far away, is it?
50?
Yeah. How old are you?
48.
Okay.
Unless you go on Wikipedia, it says I'm 49.
You going to Disneyland this year? That's a big one.
Yeah, going to Disneyland. Yeah, that'll be a big one. Yeah. Look, no, no, not really. I just want to survive to 50.
I like this last question from Mick McGill. Why do kamikaze pilots wear helmets? That's an oldie but a goodie.
It is an oldie bit of goodie and still no one can answer
Hasn't got an answer. All right, folks. Well, thanks for hanging around for Ask Kenty on Facebook Live. Make sure you tune back in for our special edition of NRL 360 tomorrow night, preceding the Hall of Fame ceremony. We kick off at 7 p.m. Bye for now.